Imagine standing on a rocky cliff overlooking the eastern coast of the island we know today as Taiwan, exactly 35,000 years ago. Before you stretches the vast, churning expanse of the Pacific Ocean. Looking out toward the horizon, there is nothing to see but endless blue water and thick sea mist. The southern islands of the Ryukyu chain are far too low and far too distant to be seen from the shore. You have no map, you have no magnetic compass. You have no way of knowing what lies beyond the waves, or if any land exists out there at all. At your feet lies a simple, handcrafted raft made of bamboo or bound timber. You know with terrifying clarity that once you push this fragile craft off the shore and step to the waves, the roaring oceanic currents will sweep you away. There will be no turning back. You will never see your home, your birthplace, or your ancestral lands ever again. Would you have the courage to step onto that raft and push out into the dark, uncharted sea? In our modern world, crossing an ocean is an everyday event. We book airline tickets on our smartphones, track our exact flight coordinates via satellite GPS in real time, and look down at detailed digital maps showing every island, reef, and coastline on Earth. Every destination is mapped, every route is calculated, and every safety protocol is engineered to minimize risk. But 35,000 years ago, during the Upper Paleolithic era, long before the emergence of the famous Jomon culture, groups of early modern humans embarked on what was arguably the most daring maritime gamble in human history. They set sail into the vast waters of the Ryukyu archipelago, embarking on a one-way journey into the complete unknown. The Ryukyu archipelago is a long, sweeping chain of islands stretching over 1,200 kilometers from the northeastern tip of Taiwan all the way to the southern island of Kyushu in Japan. Archaeological evidence recovered from at least 6 different islands indicates that early modern humans, or Homo sapiens, successfully migrated into this island chain between 35,000 and 30,000 years ago. However, attempting to reach and survive on these isolated islands presented 3 monumental, life-threatening challenges. The first and most formidable obstacle was a terrifying natural force known as the Kuroshio current. The Kuroshio is one of the strongest, fastest ocean currents on planet Earth, rushing northward between Taiwan and the Ryukyu Islands, like a massive, unstoppable river inside the sea. Because the low-lying southern Ryukyu Islands were completely invisible from the Taiwanese mainland, any primitive raft setting out to sea had to fight directly against this fierce current. A navigation error of just a few degrees would cause the Kuroshio to sweep the raft far out into the vast, empty Pacific Ocean, condemning its passengers to a slow, inescapable death. The second major threat facing these prehistoric mariners was the severe ecological limit of small island environments. Unlike vast continental landmasses where hunter-gatherers could simply pack up and move hundreds of miles to follow game animals or find new plant resources, a small ocean island is a fragile, closed ecosystem. Once ancient humans made landfall on an isolated island, their survival depended entirely on the immediate, finite resources available around them. Overhunting local animal populations or enduring a prolonged drought could quickly exhaust the island's food supply, leaving the communities stranded with nowhere else to run. The third threat was the profound vulnerability of living as an isolated founding population. Once a small group of Paleolithic pioneers successfully crossed the roaring ocean and landed on a Ryukyu island, they were almost certainly cut off from their original mainland population. Living in complete geographical isolation meant that these tiny pioneer communities were exceptionally fragile. A single epidemic, a localized typhoon, or the genetic risks associated with a very small breeding pool could easily wipe out the entire settlement, erasing their presence from the earth. For decades, conventional wisdom among many historians and archaeologists suggested that the human arrival on the Ryukyu Islands must have been an accident. The prevailing theory assumed that a few unlucky fishermen or coastal foragers were blown off course by a violent typhoon, clinging helplessly to floating debris until they randomly drifted onto an unknown beach. However, groundbreaking scientific research has completely shattered this accidental drift theory. In 2020, a major scientific study led by anthropologist Yusuke Kaifu investigated the likelihood of accidental ocean drifting. Researchers released hundreds of satellite-tracked drifter buoys into the ocean waters around Taiwan, to simulate unpowered, free-drifting rafts. The computer simulations yielded a startling conclusion: the probability of an unpowered, drifting object successfully crossing the fierce Kuroshio current and landing on the Ryukyu Islands purely by accident was virtually zero. The currents almost always swept drifting objects away into the open ocean. This discovery proved that the arrival of early modern humans on the Ryukyu Islands was not a lucky accident. These pre-Jomon ancestors were actively paddling, navigating, and directing their crafts across the ocean with a clear purpose. This stands as one of the earliest proven examples of intentional open ocean maritime navigation in the entire history of modern humanity. Physical proof of these intrepid Paleolithic voyagers remains preserved deep within the cave systems of the Ryukyu Islands. At the Yamashita-cho Cave Eye site on Okinawa Island, archaeologists excavated the fossilized leg bone of a young child alongside crude stone tools. Radiocarbon dating revealed these remains to be between 32,000 and 36,500 years old, making them the oldest verified physical evidence of modern humans in East Asia. Further down the island at Sakitari-do Cave, researchers uncovered evidence of continuous human habitation spanning from 35,000 years ago all the way down to 10,000 years ago. Inside Sakitari-do Cave, archaeologists made incredible discoveries, including delicate fishhooks crafted from polished seashell fragments, widely recognized as the oldest shell fishhooks ever discovered anywhere in the world. They also found seashell beads, ornamental jewelry, and clear traces of red ochre's pigments, proving that these Paleolithic islanders possessed rich artistic traditions and complex symbolic culture. Another priceless archaeological discovery came from the Minatogawa fissure site on Okinawa, where researchers uncovered several remarkably well-preserved human skeletons dating back roughly 18,000 years. Known collectively as Minatogawa Man, these exceptionally complete fossils provided scientists with an unprecedented look at the physical characteristics of these ancient island inhabitants. Their short, sturdy stature, strong upper bodies, and distinct facial structures revealed a population that had successfully adapted to the rugged terrain and maritime demands of island life over thousands of years. To truly understand how our Paleolithic ancestors accomplished such an incredible feat, an international team of Japanese and Taiwanese scientists, led by Professor Yusuke Kaifu, decided to test the journey themselves. In June 2019, after years of meticulous testing, using primitive stone tools to construct various ancient watercraft, including reed-bundled rafts, bamboo rafts, and carved wooden dugout canoes. The team launched an ambitious experimental voyage. Setting out from Wushibi on the eastern coast of Taiwan, 5 brave crew members boarded a hand-carved, 40-foot dugout canoe built without a single piece of metal. Guided only by the sun, the stars, wave patterns, and raw human strength, the team paddled continuously for over 40 grueling hours across the ferocious Kuroshio current. Against all odds, they successfully navigated across the open sea and made landfall on Yonaguni Island in Japan. The results of this remarkable experiment, published in the prestigious journal Science Advances, conclusively demonstrated that Paleolithic humans possessed the precise maritime knowledge, physical endurance, and technological capability required to cross one of the world's most dangerous ocean currents. It is important to remember that these ancient Paleolithic voyagers were not the Jomon people. The distinct Jomon culture, famous for its elaborate cord-marked pottery and pit dwellings, would not take shape until tens of thousands of years later, around 14,000 BCE. Yet, these pre-Jomon mariners represent the original human pioneers of the Japanese archipelago, the distant forebears who dared to push beyond the edge of the known world. Looking back across 35,000 years, their story resonates deeply with the modern human experience. In our own lives, we often find ourselves facing our own metaphorical oceans. We reach moments where we must leave the safety of our familiar shores, step away from our comfort zones, and launch ourselves into an uncertain future without a digital map or a guaranteed safety net. The courage of those ancient mariners reminds us that the human spirit has always been defined not by the shores we leave behind, but by our willingness to pick up an oar, face the roaring waves, and sail boldly into the unknown. If you were standing on that ancient beach 35,000 years ago, looking out at an empty ocean with no guarantee of ever returning? Would you have pushed off from the shore? Or would you have stayed behind on the safe, familiar coast? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into prehistoric human survival and ancient maritime exploration, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more incredible stories from our shared past. Thank you so much for listening. Stay curious, and we will see you in the next video.